Oh, hi. So, a couple of weeks ago, I made part one of how I'd think about getting a job. And I said, if you like this, say part two. And a couple of you said part two. So, here's part two. Before we spoke about making an application plan, get your CV done. Today we'll cover time management, cover letters, applications and vacancies. This is a systematic process. So by the way, this is not here's how I'd think about. This is a rigorously tested process that I've used now for almost 11 years. So if you're thinking about getting a job, this is a good process to follow. The link to this document is literally down in the description below. And a lot of the templates I'm referring to, you can download in Application Success Secret. So weirdly enough, if it was up to me, I would make time management like step number one. But time management is, what you measure, you can manage, and also boring stuff always comes last. So though finding a job is super stressful and people are like, oh my God, I need to find a job. Because it's boring and because it's stressful, people will often just not give the time to it. Now, time and time again, I've had people who have reached out to me in September when they're starting a course, and then they'll be like, oh my God, I really need to get a job. And they'll buy loads of courses, or maybe they'll have a bit of coaching with me. And then they just disappear. You sort of hit October, they disappear and they reappear next August. They're like, oh crap, like now I really, really need to get a job. Now, first of all, you want to make this easier for yourself. So what's the minimum amount of time you can give to getting a job? Now, this isn't about the thing itself, it's about creating the habit. So the quicker that you create a habit, and a habit is just actions repeated on a regular basis, then the better that you're going to be, because this is a marathon and not a sprint. So just because you all of a sudden switch on and you go, well, I really want to do this in a week. It's kind of like, say you put on 20 kilos of weight. You go, well, this is the week that I'm going to lose 20 kilos of weight. It's not going to happen. Doesn't matter how much you try, how much you starve yourself. But also, if you did try to lose 20 kilos in a week, guaranteed, it's going to be absolutely miserable. You're really going to find it difficult to stick to the thing that you're doing. So you really kind of want to create the habit. So say week one, you're like, well, I can give an hour. So then you do that week two, 1 hour. And then maybe week three, you're like, this feels better. I'm going to do 2 hours. And then week 4 and so on. And you also, within that, you want to separate your time and schedule your time. So really importantly, if you don't have a diary, most people, I imagine, watching this video would have a smartphone. Just use a smartphone and schedule it in. Literally schedule it in as an appointment. So don't be like, well, yeah, I think I'm going to do it, sort of this evening. Guaranteed it's not going to get done. The way that you sort of look at doing this is you go, right, I've scheduled it in for half an hour on Monday evening and half an hour on Thursday evening. That's when I'm going to do it. It pops up with a reminder on your phone. Also, this is really helpful if you get other stuff booked in or other things come up, and then you just need to sit down and do that thing. So that's scheduling. Separating your time is basically like, are you going to apply for jobs? Are you going to look for jobs? Are you going to do your CV, your cover letter? Are you going to do interviews? Are you going to do online tests? Like, what are you going to do in that time that's allotted? Something is kind of like a bonus for this is phone in airplane mode. And maybe even website blocker on laptop. So what I've observed a lot of people will do is, we're not seeking to do huge amounts of time and work. When I used to work with people one-to-one all the way from zero to job, I'd say, well, how much time will it take? And I was like, three or 4 hours a week. They're like, is that it? I was like, yeah. But I said, when you give me 3 or 4 hours a week, you give me 3 or 4 hours a week. You do not give me 10 minutes here and then your phone, 5 minutes here and then your phone. There is, more than enough scientific research and some wonderful books about habit formation to talk about the completely damaging effect of task switching. So you don't want to be getting into the habit of this. So even if you can't do, 30 minutes without your phone, do 5, do 10, do 15, but focus specifically on the thing that you are doing, and you will create an enormous body of work if you can just sit there and be focused. And what this actually means is that you can end up doing a lot in a very small period of time. I guarantee you that the people who are successful manage their time the best. That's really what it comes down to. This is by far and away one of the most important things that you can do, and do that now. Choose the day, choose the amount of time, choose the time during the day, choose the task that you're going to do, put that into your diary and stick to that thing that you said you're going to do. This is your non-negotiable. So very often, things are going to come up which is going to be more interesting, more exciting, more kind of, fun. But the point is that if it's about getting a job is kind of the long arc to you getting a better life, to be able to do all the things that you want to do. So, along the way, you're going to have to front load for discipline. I'm not going to turn into a motivational video, but you kind of know that. You just got to make it as easy as possible. And if you're somebody who really struggles to manage their time and is always really, kind of all over the place, this is probably why. Because you're just completely riddled with distractions. And I guarantee if you start taking the time to go, right, for 10 minutes, I'm going to put my phone in airplane mode, put my phone somewhere else, and I'm going to just do this thing. So cover letters, I would say these days about 40 to 50% of companies still want cover letters. They operate on the same premise as CVs. So same premise as CVs, i.e. being passed by an ATS, and they are another great opportunity to get your keywords in. There's a really simple and systematic process for a cover letter, which is who is it to, what are you doing, why this company, why this role, why you, bye. Now, there's a lot of different ways that I've seen cover letters presented. The worst thing that you can do, if you're just going to send generic cover letters, just don't bother. Just save everybody's time. Yes, cover letters are by far and away one of the things when I speak to people that they say, this is the most time-consuming thing. It's the thing that, I'm really not good at. It is a difficult skill. I would say, in the beginning, people can take 1 to 3 hours to do a 400 letter cover letter. 400 word cover letter. However, by the end, it's 15 to 20 minutes. Because literally, this is the same bar the job. This is the same bar the job. This is a systematic process of 5 facts. This is what will you do. This is almost always the same, and this is the same. So what you're basically doing is cover letters, you then begin to rinse and repeat the same things and just adjust it to the company and to the role. So you're adjusting about 150 to 200 words. It makes a huge difference. If a company says this is optional, always do it, right? Because it's just an additional burden of proof. If someone was to say to you, well, would you like to submit 2 pages of evidence as to why we should choose you, or 1 page of evidence? Well, I'm going to choose 2 pages of evidence. I'm going to try and give them the maximum amount of material possible in order for them to come to decision, but avoid fill in the blank cover letters. So this is always a thing that I see people doing, and it's just pointless. Like, no one's going to look at it, no one's going to read it. If an ATS passes it, they're not going to see anything, because again, the ATS is just trying to match this up with the job description. Yeah? So you're just trying to pick out skills and experiences from the job description in order to put it into your cover letter. So lastly is applications and vacancies. First thing, no applications, no job. If we do part 3, then I'll talk about online tests, but lots of people dither on cover letters, plans, online tests, and anything apart from applications. I've had calls with clients, and they're like, "Oh, I'm not getting a job, and I don't know what to do," and blah blah blah. And really, the answer is just volume. More. Now, this is more of quality and not quantity, but it's still more. Yeah. If you understand the technique to do something, so your technique is correct, you begin to see results from that technique, then it's just about crank up the fucking dial and do that as much as possible. So if you know that you can write good cover letters, you know that you can submit good applications. Another trick for this is also have a template response sheet for boring stuff like address, education, work experience, etc. So very often, the thing that kind of gets people down about application forms is they're having to fill out the same education 27 times, the same work experience. Just save it all on a template response sheet. So it's just copy and pasting stuff across. So you're not having to kind of come across this friction over and over again. You want to create a system that makes it as easy as possible to focus on the quality and to put out as much quantity as possible. That's a really simple trick that people don't use. I've got no idea why. So, so many times someone said, "Oh, can you just help me with this application form?" And then they're sitting there writing it out time after time. And I'm just like, "But haven't you got this saved somewhere?" And they're like, "Oh, no." I was like, "Why?" Just copy and paste that stuff in. That's for applications. And I would say minimum 1 to 2 high quality applications per week. Now that is going to sound ridiculously small to anybody who's been sitting there and busting out, 7,000 one-click applies for Indeed and LinkedIn. You're like, 1 to 2? That's how is that ever going to help me? Well, it's going to help you because it's actually tailored to the job that is required. Right, it's not like just some flight of fancy of like, I just sent the same CV and the same cover letter. Well, are you getting responses from that? The other thing is, you always want to make time every week, and I would say minimum. So make time to find vacancies. All of these templates. So I think we've got a template for finding vacancies, template for cover letters. It's all in application success secrets down below. So make time to find these vacancies. Use Indeed and other jobs boards to do the hard work for you. So create specific, they're called Boolean searches. So Boolean or long tail keyword searches. So you might have like graduate plus finance plus 2 and you would save that as a search in Indeed and then just get them to email. You might even get them to email that to you every day, because the quickest person to apply for a vacancy has a much better chance versus the one who applies last, irrespective of skill, talent and experience. Why? Because they're just first. They were just early. So if somebody turns up and I'm a moderately okay graduate professional type person, that employer needs to hire people, even for graduate schemes. So people will be like, "Oh, but graduate schemes are open for 3 months." Yeah, but if the employer could fill the graduate scheme within the first couple of weeks, then they're going to do that, because then they can deploy staff and resources to be doing other stuff. They're not sitting there waiting for you to apply. And most importantly, deadlines should be avoided. And what I mean by that is that I've heard this so many times when people are like, oh, well, I'm going to wait until the deadline. And I'm like, are you thick? What do you mean you're going to wait until the deadline? Oh, we really need oranges, and I know that lots of people are buying oranges, but I'm going to go to the market at the end of the day. Of course you wouldn't. You do it as soon as you possibly could. If it was really important, people will kind of just do deadlines because they're just lazy, and then they get upset. They're like, oh my God, but I applied within the deadline. I'm like, you applied the day of the deadline after the job had been open for 4 months. WTF? What have you been doing? Right, and the main thing as well is while you're doing all of this, you can get it all added in. So add it in. So add this all in and schedule on your application plan, which is why an application plan is so important, because it's really difficult to keep track of all this stuff. So many times whenever I have sessions with people and I'll be like, how many companies have you applied to? How far did you get? What's going on? And they're just going back and forth through their email. It's a really ineffective thing, because the other thing you want to do is after 7 days, if possible, chase applications. This is particularly relevant for small and medium-sized enterprises, because you're probably going to be, speaking to an actual person. But we like people who are keen. Employers are like, oh, Steve just emailed me and he's chasing up that job. What's going on with that job, Susan? So if you can be proactive. You can be chasing up. You can be chasing up your applications. You can be sending out new applications. And again, we want to keep that as small and as manageable as possible. So it's just always think to yourself when you're building a habit, how can I make this as easy and as least difficult as possible? It may not be fun, because not everything can be fun, but if I can remove as much friction as possible, the chances are really good that I'm going to do it. If I lived in the gym, the chances are pretty, if I lived in a flat above the gym and I literally had to go past the gym on my way to my flat, the chances are pretty good that I'd start going to the gym, because it's just there. We're just removing the friction. That's all it's about. It's about making it as easy as possible for ourselves. Guys, I hope that you enjoyed this video. If you'd like me to do part 3, then drop me a comment down below saying part 3, and you can make sure you get all these templates in Application Success Secrets. Bye.